It's the Weekly Wrap with your host, broadcasting legend Bruce Wolf, and his trusty sidekick, comedian Tim Slagle. And now, without further ado, Bruce Wolf.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap, and now my favorite part of the show, wherein we reveal what is in Tim Slagle's background, other than his belief in all manner of conspiracy theories, and which is why I'm sure that he liked the UFO question the best in the debate last night. I'm gonna guess that that's what's behind you. It's a UFO. Am I right? In honor of the greatest question in the debate last night.
You're close.
Let's take a look. Oh, there you go. The debate stage.
Debate stage. Just
And
here
see-
in Milwaukee, just watching them pack it up and get it to California for next month.
You're in Milwaukee right now?
Sure.
Right, exactly. We go right through the fourth wall. It's a figment of our imagination.
That was an expensive stage. Holy cow.
Yeah,
it was like probably about $1 per viewer.
Sure. I watched 30 seconds of the debate. I saw Tim Scott trying to beat the clock, and he did it with good humor. My understanding, because I'm kind of like a meta performer, whatever. I base everything on other things. Like I don't see movies. I would look at the Ebert and Siskel reviews. I get all my news from Twitter, which is second and third hand. You're about the closest thing to actual, direct contact with the real world that I have, Tim. So
I'm sorry to hear that.
yeah, but I have read and I've even listened to a podcast about the debate. I have not listened to the Oliver Anthony song yet, but my understanding of it, just to, break it down to about 12 words, is he's upset that he has to pay a lot of taxes and is not keeping up with his income. And that's what spurred the first 20 minutes of talking the debate last night, which, could be framed in such a way to make it interesting if you attacked Biden for all the inflation, but it sounds kind of dull to me and to the populace, which certainly doesn't want to hear a Paul Ryan lecture on how we can slowly bring the entitlement state to heel. Am I right about that, Tim?
As far as the debate or the Anthony Oliver song,
all of it
I'm not
together.
Sure. You kind of went off on two tangents there.
Sure,
I wasn't sure
right.
what I have to agree to. The Anthony Oliver song, that I find that interesting. He's like a modern day Woody Guthrie.
Uh-huh.
Only now the left hates the Woody Guthrie type, the working man fighting against the powers that be. As far as the debate, no, I didn't watch it. I got here late.
Yeah, me neither. So per usual,
they were sweeping up. I figured if there's anything interesting that's going to happen, we'll see it.
Right.
Ad nauseum.
Right. Look, this is the raison d'etre for this podcast. Two guys talking about the news and not really accessing it. It's because there are a million podcasts where people watch the debate. We didn't watch the debate. Here, I do know that an hour into the debate, they finally asked about the Trump situation and the indictments and all that, and that at some point it apparently looked like To Tell the Truth, where you had, will the real Trump supporters please stand up or raise their hands? And it was they were kind of hesitant to do it. And Ron DeSantis said, what are we, kids, in the school or something? So yeah, I'm just,
Chris Christie was the last one to put his hand up.
Yeah. Okay.
And
well,
Asa Hutchinson did not.
Okay.
All
right.
Won't. So that's he's out. I think that's
right.
I think it's like musical podiums. There'll be one less podium next.
Yeah. Is there going to be another debate? I mean,
September 22nd at the
okay.
Ronald Reagan Library.
Oh, I can't wait for that. I didn't think Reagan did all that well in the debates. Even I was nervous for him. That's one reason I don't watch. I get nervous for my guys. I think they're going to trip up. Whereas the Democrats, I always thought were more slick, with the exception of Kamala Harris. But they did talk about
Did they have primary debates? back in those days? I thought that was kind of a new thing. I thought they just had the actual debate when they finally got it down.
I don't remember. I probably grafting some things onto history that don't exactly exist. I know I remember seeing Reagan debate, but not necessarily in a primary.
Back then we only had 3 networks,
Sure. No, I understand that.
So that there wasn't that much airtime available that they now they got airtime to fill.
But the airtime was very important, and the political debates were not left to some cable channel like Fox. They were aired by all the networks. It was supposedly really important stuff, democracy in action. Now, of course, I'm watching the latest episode of Justified on Hulu in lieu of the debate because I got my priorities. Now, they did mention, so Vivek apparently made a splash on this, but he was kind of knocked down by Nikki Haley and others. They attacked him. And he said something like the climate change agenda is a hoax, which is you got to parse his words carefully because, yeah, the agenda is a hoax, but I wouldn't necessarily say that all climate change is a hoax, much as I don't agree with the agenda of the Democrats on it.
Well, you're not supposed to say it's a hoax, but I think a lot of people think it's a hoax. Every summer actually it becomes climate change, and in the winter it'll become global warming.
Right.
In the summer, in the summer it becomes global warming. I'm sorry, it's not climate change.
I believe it's exaggerated. I mean, I think I take the typical Republican position that it's exaggerated. Now, meantime, Trump had an interview with Tucker Carlson that with each succeeding tweet that I read, more and more people have viewed it. First, it started with Carrie Lake saying there were 80 million views, which would mean like 1 out of every 4 people in the United States. And I was thinking that maybe 1 million people had to watch it 80 times because they're dim-witted, and that's the number of views. But then it got up to like 160 million. So I don't even know what views.
Right now, I just checked it. It's 232 million
views.
232 million views.
Which means what?
Which means I haven't been able to watch it because it's the server is overrun. So I've clicked on it about 7 times. And it's been unwatchable because it's just not downloading enough. So that's my guess is maybe 3 million people watched it, clicked on it 70 times a piece.
Well, I guess it dovetailed nicely with the Republican debate with like the UFO question, because they were out of this world questions asked of Trump.
That's the second time you brought that up. What was the UFO question?
I think it was a question. It was toward the end, I think, and it was a question, but what the existence of UFOs, and Chris Christie was pretty upset about it because he says, "I get the UFO question." So, poor Chris Christie.
Give it to the blimp.
Yeah, there's just I sent for your perusal. Maybe you looked at it, maybe you didn't. Something from the Dispatch. Well, actually, they're picking it up from Seth Moskowitz in Discourse magazine, saying that Trump is not an inevitability, and there's like 4 or 5 reasons. We could tick them off, and you could give your comments on each one of them. One is he's not an inevitability because the Republicans haven't paid that much attention to the primary yet, and just choose Trump in the polls as a default. Do you think you take much stock in that answer? I don't necessarily.
No. It's I think with when he's polling right now, nobody's going to pay attention to the debates. No one's going to pay attention.
Well, I'm not talking about the debates, but right. But
what do the other candidates have to say? No one really cares. What was the number actually on the Fox debates? Did you happen to see that?
No, I didn't see it. I didn't see it.
Was it even 1 million? Did they even get 1 million?
I have no idea. That's a good question. Now, he said the second reason is that the early primary states have the potential to shake up the entire contest. And in fact, it does look like Chris Christie, as somebody was saying at the commentary podcast, is running for New Hampshire primary victory because he was kind of low key, certainly didn't go into any of the social issues as the New Hampshire Republicans are their own brand. So I mean, it's possible you could get an upset in New Hampshire, but of course, what does that mean? I mean, Biden lost a couple of primaries, and then they damned the whole thing in South Carolina, and it was over. So I don't know that even that necessarily means anything. But it is a strategy.
That's an old formula, I think.
Yeah.
That if you do well in a New Hampshire, then all of a sudden it changes your fortunes. I don't think. I think in the early days of primaries, it was whoever won New Hampshire suddenly started getting press.
Well,
but now all these guys are getting so much press that
Right.
I don't think it matters.
Right.
What is New Hampshire?
I mean, I think New Hampshire knocked Lyndon Johnson out of the race, even though because Eugene McCarthy, whom the voters thought was Joe McCarthy, okay, that I think there was some mistake there by some of the voters. But all right, third, the dynamics of the race could change as the field consolidates. I guess so. And then there's all the legal troubles that Trump has. And it's possible because there was just a guy who flipped in the Mar-a-Lago case this week. So there'll be more evidence against Trump. I mean, I still think at least 3 of the 4 are legally garbage, and the 4th one is based on the Espionage Act, Mar-a-Lago, which is just preposterous the way it's been arbitrarily and capriciously enforced. But that's my view of things. But that could knock him out. So if people are still
if he gets indicted,
if he gets convicted.
Yeah, but I mean, already it's almost all the candidates said that they would continue to support him even if he gets convicted.
Well, then it's going to be interesting. Nobody's on the ballots. That'll be fun. There's this talk. Bill Barr thinks that Trump should be at home detention. So could you imagine an election season where you're not even going to have debates for sure between Biden and Trump? Neither one wants to do that. But it will also be Biden from his basement and Trump from his home detention. Oh man, talk about the era now that we live in, which everybody is working remotely. Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
And they had some very special visitors. In partnership with the Chicago Fire and Police Departments, Mayor Johnson handed out a frozen pizza to each child. In total, more than 6,000 home run-in pizzas were given to students on the south and west sides today.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. And this is one of those situations where I remember I had a boss once, Charles Moratides, at the Lerner newspapers. He said, so many good stories are wrecked by making one more phone call. And this story is wrecked a little bit because I kind of had hoped that Mayor Johnson gave these pizzas to these kids like at the beginning of the day. And Marie Antoinette was going to say, let them use microwaves or something. But he gave the pizzas at the end of the day. However, he did give them, as our reporter and crack producer, Chris said, gave them only to students on the west and south sides, and not to the
you think north side? You think north side families eat frozen pizza? I mean, come on.
Probably not.
I mean, snooty for that.
Probably there's a Lou Malnati's on every corner there.
Exactly,
and a chicken in every pot. But
does handing out frozen pizzas? I mean, you wished it was the beginning of the day, but I mean, it's. What's the heat index? 114?
Well, that's today when we're recording. Which, right, you can immediately cook the pizzas on the sidewalk.
Yeah, they were done by the time they got home.
Or cook it on your forehead if you stay out long enough. But I'm just thinking that if they stayed frozen, they could be used. Sometimes it's a little difficult getting home from school in those neighborhoods, like Odd Job. And just whisk them at assailants with because they could be like a deadly frisbee. But anyway,
I was unfamiliar with Casey Cronus, the reporter who covered this. It's
no, I don't know who you're talking about either.
You didn't watch the clip?
No.
Okay.
I'm supposed to. The whole point
because I've noticed on the news lately what they do is like if it's something that happens in a black neighborhood, they'll find a black reporter, or if it's like an Asian that gets pushed in front of a subway, they'll find an Asian reporter. This is kind of interesting because it's about Chicago schools, and it looks like they got a high school student to report on
Well,
it.
that's good. Well, that's good. I mean, that's apropos. It also could be, cutbacks in the industry right now are necessitating the use of stringers. Meantime, the next great story out of the city of Chicago, and I don't know, was this an older person or some functionary in the administration, said that there should be special hours for gangs to kill each other in the city. They should, like from 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. That's your time, gangs. Well, maybe with time off for midnight basketball, but that's the time that you can kill each other. But during the daylight hours, we don't want any of your mayhem. And it seems like a perfectly reasonable. Yeah, like who was this? It's a city council member, an older person, suggested this. And
actually, they suggested that just don't murder for 12 hours a day. That's right. So she didn't really look at what she was really saying. She thought, how about if we just don't kill each other for 12 hours a day?
You got to start somewhere, and it's like a diet. You can't go cold turkey. Withdrawal from cigarette smoking. Just don't do it for 12 hours. I mean, I would try to make it start out with like 2 or 3 hours a day. It's a little ambitious, half of the day. But
she didn't realize that she was actually invoking The Purge. Do you remember that movie? It was 2013.
No,
it was a solution for crime, and basically it was a 5 minutes in the future, they've decided that there's one day where you can do anything, where everything is legal. And you can murder, you can rob, and so like one day a year, it was all focused on, it was crime day. Oh, and
it's like supermarket sweep, when they let you just take just let you take a cart and just go through the aisles well, now we've got that anyway. In the stores, because nobody will be prosecuted. So it's like a living supermarket sweep.
I've been saying for a while that we need to have gun training in schools. We have to bring gun training into Chicago schools, because the problem, as I see it, is that the wrong kids are getting shot. Right. It's never the bad kids that get shot. It's always the good student who actually got a full scholarship into Harvard and was walking home from the library at 11 o'clock at night and hit by a stray bullet.
Well, we need
to teach these kids how to shoot so there's no more stray bullets.
It's partially that kid's fault, because from 9 p.m. to 9 a.m., remember, is the time when the games can shoot. So I understand that. No, it reminds me a little bit of The Wire when they had that zone. The cop had the zone.
Amsterdam.
Yeah, right. It's just, okay, this is where you're going to sell the drugs. So I understand. I understand where she was coming from. It wasn't that well thought out, but, workshop it. Meantime, the jokes kind of write themselves with this story. Governor Pritzker signed legislation to ameliorate the food desert conditions in the state of Illinois. And
I think he misread it. I think he thought it was food dessert.
Yeah, there you go. That's one joke. Also, Governor, how about cutting out one meal a day yourself? Whatever. But I just it reminds me a little bit of the Sam Kinison routine, hysterical one where they're shooting the public service announcement in Biafra or Ethiopia with the starving kid with the distended belly and the ribs showing, and Kinison says to the director of the public service announcement, "Give him a sandwich," and Governor, give him a sandwich. You got it. You don't have to have the food.
What the legislation does is it brings. He says he wants to bring independent groceries to the. Well, that's what they have already.
Chris
is the independent. Is the independent? Yeah, I know. It's
for those of you who can't watch this. I mean, this whole show basically is just Chris's way of just dropping in the most bizarre photos you want. I mean, it's so sad. I mean, a distended belly of some. All right, I can't have any association with this show anymore. But yeah, it's
But they have the independent grocers. That's what they have in the quote unquote food deserts, are the independent stores. I mean, and the thing is, you can only put so many groceries behind bulletproof glass. So I mean, yeah, that's why they're limited.
It's funny because that's the excuse that we conservatives come up with. That's why the Walmarts and the Whole Foods, whatever, are leaving because of crime. But the liberals come up with other reasons for, I can't fathom what they are, but there's reasons that these food stores don't work in places like Englewood and Lawndale, other than crime.
How many people in Englewood or Lawndale actually shop at Whole Foods? How many are going?
Well, I mean, they tried to lower the prices.
Pay the extra $5 for a head of lettuce.
No, I get it. They tried to lower the prices. I know that grocery stores operate on a razor thin profit margin. It's like 1%, so they can't afford to lose money through robbery. But it's not just that. I think I'm just wondering if those areas are also people deserts as well. There's just not that many. They closed a lot of public schools because there just aren't a lot of people around anymore. People have fled there. And so, I mean, you're trying to reach a number of people who in a relatively sparsely populated area. Maybe it just doesn't work. But yeah, what do you do for them? Again, this is why Nathan Glazer was the neocon who said, to some problems, there are no solutions, certainly not government ones. So we'll leave that one there. Speaking of bad pictures, Chris can put this one up. Do you see Paris right now? What is going on in Paris right now? I forgot. I had that in my head like a couple of weeks ago, but I mean, it's mayhem there.
It's they raised the retirement age to 62, I think.
Oh yeah, right. Okay. And now
the entire country went on strike.
Right. And there's people all over it's beautiful Paris. I mean, we'll always have Emily in Paris, the hot chick from Chicago who slept her way through the Eiffel Tower and the Louvre and other parts.
I think the video that Chris is showing right now looks like they don't look like French people. I mean,
no,
they're in France and they might be legal citizens of France, but they don't look French. And that's I think that's the issue that the video is pointing out.
Yeah. I don't see, it doesn't look like too many people from the Loire Valley or from Arles. It doesn't. And finally,
looks like LA.
Right. So let me ask you this. China, bad report on China. They've got economic woes, population problems. The chickens are coming home to roost. The dogs are being eaten.
25% unemployment among youth.
Yeah, I mean, so what happened to the great experiment? Remember, Thomas Friedman, the New York Times columnist, was urging the China way on us. You'd think that those spy balloons, could have picked up some the Bain Capital meetings to figure out how to do this. And of course, it's because it's centralized government, buddy, writ large. That it's not difficult to figure out why these things are happening, but
it's the second time. It's the second time in my lifetime that the people said, we have to copy the Asian model.
Right. Right. Japan was the first one. Yeah. Remember, Japan was going to take over, and
I don't think they ever pulled out of that recession.
No, and there are no Japanese.
They're still in it.
There are no Japanese people anymore. I mean, they're dying out. Here's my concern. You think China will take some big risks because they're desperate now, so they'll just go for it all. Put all the everything on number 23 on the table, or just go for Taiwan. I mean, you think we're at greater risk right now because they're desperate?
Well, actually, what I heard is that Xi has not been seen now for several days, which could indicate that he was on that Russian private jet.
Oh my goodness! And with that, we'll take a break tonight. Right now, Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
What the world's gotten to for people like me. Lord knows they all just wanna have total control. Wanna know what you think, wanna know what you do, and they don't think you know, but I know that you
Bruce
do.
Wolf, Tim Slagle on the weekly wrap, and
We talked about this earlier.
we talked a little bit about Oliver Anthony's song, but it bears repeating. I mean, that the thing has almost as many impressions or views as a Tucker Carlson interview with Donald Trump, which I believe is now up to 500 million as we speak. It's like nobody has not seen the Tucker Carlson interview.
Well, all our listeners are trying to stream it too now.
Yeah,
Now.
that's true. So Oliver, yeah, I still haven't heard the song actually because I didn't listen to this clip either. But I mean, it's just a working class hero thing. Taxes are too high.
It's kind of loud. It's kind of loud, and could probably use a couple more instruments. It's loud and sparse, but it's interesting. I mean, he sang it. He's just. It is the voice. It is the voice of the Trump supporter. It's the voice of the working man. It's the voice of the working poor, and the left hates it, which is to me is incredible irony because that's where they came from. That's who they're supposed to represent.
Look, and we now have the McGovern wing of the Republican Party, the NatCons, who don't want us to be involved in Ukraine. Everything is flipping. It reminds me a little bit of the appeal of George Wallace. I mean, he was a populist in the late 60s, and he liked big government, the FDR style programs, but he wanted to keep his segregation. Okay, so
which FDR also was in favor of, if I remember my history correctly.
Well, there are some people in remember the Japanese internment camps. So,
Sure.
Yeah. Anyway,
the military was segregated under Roosevelt.
I'm not going to impose, the 21st century standards on FDR during World War II. It's they had a war to win. I'm not going to.
Okay.
I'm not going to judge him because the next thing then we're tearing down the Washington Monument because Washington had slaves. So,
what?
There is a Washington Monument. Would you believe? Looks like a big penis. So speaking of, let's go back here for a little bit. I loved Biden when he was talking about Maui. We always think of Trump's the narcissist, but Biden can go stride for stride with him. Do we have that soundbite, by the way, Chris? I don't want to spring it on you, but Biden, likened the whole thing to he could empathize because he had that experience, which was tragic in 1972, where his wife and daughter died in a car accident. And here we go.
Deadliest wildfire in over a century. Jill and I have what's left, walked Front Street, what's left of it. We've surveyed the damage from the air as well. The devastation is overwhelming. To date, 114 dead, hundreds of people unaccounted for. I remember when I got the call, my first wife and daughter, I was a young senator, and I got a call in Washington. I hadn't been sworn in yet. I wasn't old enough. And I was hiring staff in the Capitol, Teddy Kennedy's office. And I got a phone call saying from my fire department, and a young first responder kind of panicked, you got to come home. Been an accident. So what happened? He said, your wife, she's dead. Come home. Come home. Tractor trailer had broadsided her and killed her in a car accident along with my little daughter. And I remember all the way down from Washington home, wondering what a lot of people here wondered. What about my two boys? How are they? They were in the car. I never got a read on it.
This just goes on and on, right? Okay. There's the thing. I was really hoping that he would blame that accident on the truck driver that got into the accident with his wife, because that's what he did. He said the guy drank his lunch. He made up the entire story, and
Sure.
it had to be retracted. It's one of the worst things, and he's done a lot of bad things. I mean, the plagiarism, pretending that he's with Nelson Mandela and everything. But that's the chutzpah of him to bring up that story now when he has been discredited because of the embellishment that he put on that story before. I mean, the guy has Have you no shame, Senator Biden? Have you no shame?
I was expecting him to say, well, I know a lot of people lost their vacation homes here in Maui, and I know how that feels because I was on vacation and I got a call that says that your polls are dropping. You have to get on a plane and fly to Maui.
Yeah. I could. It might have been more relevant than the story that he told.
I had my vacation ruined by a fire in Maui.
Hey, what is this? I don't know how to answer this one. What do we say about Kid Rock being caught drinking Bud Light after he shot up some Bud Light? I mean, what was it, like the only port in the storm? That's all that was available to him. I mean, what?
I think once you lock into a beer brand, you really can't do it. For some people, you really can't switch. Is nothing else tastes good to you? I just think that's what it is. It's you should have disguised it, maybe put it in a glass.
Well, maybe, you know what I'm thinking, maybe he he's thought that they've been punished enough. I mean, he's shot up the beer. They've lost the great big market share. They're never going to recover. Enough is enough already. So
maybe Bud Light hired him to do it. Maybe they said, well, we get Kid Rock to drink it again. Maybe we can get some of our customers back.
Yeah. All right. So are we going to have masking again?
Seems that way, doesn't it?
A new COVID strain. I mean, am I going to have to hate people all over again for wearing masks in restaurants? Even though
science has actually determined that there is a link between a causal link between COVID infections and presidential elections.
Right, exactly. And there's definitely a causal nexus right there, more than a correlation. Absolutely.
They're going to have to find some reason for keeping Biden in the basement, aren't they?
Sure. No, and I understand. Keeps him in the basement, more mail-in voting. I totally get it. But yeah, I was just I'm just fascinated by that. And no, this is definitely going to be a boy who cried Bruce Wolf moment for the populace. I mean, people just aren't going to put up with it. I think you're going to have to see like 5 million Americans dead from this before anybody believes it. Am I wrong?
I don't know. I thought last time I remember saying I think Americans will put up with the lockdowns for about 2 weeks. And 2 years later, I was still tasting black feathers.
Right. Oh boy. So do we have this picture of Rich Roper with President Clinton? I can't see if it's on the rundown or not. I don't want to surprise you with this. I've got it on my rundown here.
I saw your tweet.
Yeah. Well, anyway, there's this picture. Rich Roper. It was Clinton's birthday the other day, and I've known Rich for years, and he put a picture of him and Clinton, which has got to be at least 25 years old. It's at some function. And in the background, you see a little Richie Daley, it's an actual size photo of Richie Daley in the background, but he's like Richie Daley's photo bombing this. But it's Rich Roper, and apparently Clinton came up to him and wanted to talk about movies, which is fine. If I had the opportunity to talk to Bill Clinton, my first question would be, did you rape Juanita Broaddrick? I mean, and so I just what I heard somebody told me once.
Well, you can go even further. You can say, did you really have a fever when you were a kid, so you're sterile?
Oh, there you go.
Which was also what came out in the Juanita Broaddrick.
Right. So somebody once told me, I don't know if it's true, but it's fun, right? That Clinton, the way he would say "F you" to people, and he'd be meeting, people constantly pressing the flesh. He would just say, "I like your tie." So Bill Clinton, this photo, I like your tie right here. It's a nice yellow number right there. And Rich Roper's got his arm around you. I don't know. I was never part of that crowd in the Chicago media where, you just get to mix with Richie Daley and Bill Clinton and, have all kinds of conflicts of interest and everything. But it looks like it was a lot of fun. It looks like it was a lot of fun. So, speaking of presidents, we finally got through the series Jack Ryan. Did you watch Jack Ryan at all?
I didn't get to the last season, so I'm still.
You didn't. I don't want to give it away.
I think I'm on season. I think I'm on season 3.
I will tell you. Well,
hang on. I can't listen. You can't. Tell
yeah,
me
you're going to miss a lot. Yeah, no, he gets shot and killed like in the first episode of season 4, and then they don't know what to do for the last 6 episodes. No, it was amazing. It was like that series Money Heist, where all your favorites, like a million bullets rained down during the series, and nobody got killed on your side. Sure. Maybe one guy got winged. And
that's what happens when you go up against stormtroopers.
I guess. I mean, but anyway, I was thinking, and this guy Krasinski who plays it, I mean, it's kind of like pro-war and CIA and everything. And but didn't Krasinski play this cool hip guy on The Office? Yeah. So it doesn't seem to jive.
He was the romantic
I like people
lead.
To be consistent. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never found him believable as Jack Ryan. It's still Jim from The Office.
Yeah, he looks a little lost all the time. But he is
still waiting him to play tricks on Dwight.
But I mean, he's stable. He's smart. The actual president in the series, it looks like kind of multi-ethnic. Do you ever notice presidents in TV series like Jack Ryan? You can't imagine our current presidents like Biden or Trump ever having an intelligent conversation like the presidents in these series. They know all about the CIA and everything. That all that CIA stuff had to be spoon-fed to Trump and probably Biden now as well. So the presidents are always way too smart. Anyway.
I think everything has to be spoon-fed to Biden.
Right, exactly.
I think if they put it in a blender, and because he won't put his dentures in at din time.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
And that's what keeps us coming back, and that's what enables you to stay in a market for 32 years, maybe. I don't know, but so I wouldn't say I'm sad that it's over. I am just thrilled that it happened.
Yeah.
And that's the way I look at it. So thanks to you, and thanks to everybody.
Well, thank you, Corey.
Are we done?
We'll miss you. You're done.
We love you so much.
Thank you for watching.
We appreciate it, and we'll see you down the road.
Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. Gee, I really would like to say something bad about Corey McPherrin, but I worked with him. He was nice to me and everything. It was fine. I mean, and I got to admit, until I exhaust all the Hulu series, Netflix, Apple, everything else that's available, then it's going to be available until it's all exhausted because the writers haven't gone back to work. I don't think I'm going to be watching the local yokel news at all anytime soon. So, but a Cujo's, as Michael Jordan would say to Corey, he had a second life after being a sportscaster. He showed, hey, I can read the teleprompter too, just like any other vapid newscaster. And he wasn't vapid. I mean, he read it with sincerity, and he's a Chicagoan. He knows what's going on. But you don't have a Corey McPherrin story? Oh, I got lots of. Who cares? Do you care?
No.
No,
I've never.
If there's one person,
I don't watch local news because it just seems like a recap of the national news anymore.
Well, they got. What are you talking about? They got the murder count in Chicago. Well, that's the national news too. But I like Corey, and I'm a little bit envious because he got to make a lot of dough in the last few years just doing that newscast. But he had to do the newscast, which is kind of interesting to me. He was doing the morning show for Channel 32, and they promoted him, a white male, and they got rid of Darlene Hill, a black female. And she actually had complained because there was a Robert Feeder column when this happened, that said that she had hired a civil rights attorney, which, I've never really seen that before. And also that there was a group that was going to come to protest at Channel 32. And then all of a sudden the story disappeared. It just vanished. Even from Robert Feeder, it just kind of glossed over it and never mentioned, other than the fact that she left, but never mentioned, well, what happened to the controversy here? It was like Pravda or TASS, whatever. But yeah, well, it could be that they just felt she was incompetent. But I liked her. I worked with her, like Corey too. And again, I'm just a bitter old man doing a podcast now, but that's what I'm selling.
So why do you think he left? Why do you think?
I mean, it's just probably. I mean, he was sick of it. I mean, he's got to be like
got a model railroad in its basement.
Well,
that he wants to work on?
I mean, how long do you have to do this thing for? I mean, it is kind of being in hell, having to do the news forever. I mean, really, how many times? It was like Mark Giangreco. How many times could you do the Bulls
taking
highlights?
that wheelbarrow full of cash to the bank once a week?
Yeah, but I mean,
it's exhausting.
First of all, it doesn't pay like it used to, although I'm sure he made a fine living. It just, who wants to do? I mean, you got to retire at some point. No, I know if you're a stand-up comedian, so I mean, you've got material that you wanted to work on and everything, but newscasters don't get to do that. They just get to tell you, what the murder du jour was in Englewood. I mean, it's mind numbing. So, good luck in retirement, Corey. If you ever want to play golf, Corey, I know some people who would like to play with you. I personally wouldn't, but no, he's a nice guy.
Why not?
He's probably not that good. So meantime, speaking of retirements, the forced retirement of Kenny Williams and Rick Hahn of the White Sox. You don't care about that one either. Also, the White Sox threatened to move. There was a story in Cranes this week. If the White Sox had as many World Series championships as threats to move, people might actually care about this story that they're considering moving. And they did get rid of Kenny Williams.
Well, the Bears got some pretty interesting offers. Several. It's they pretty much was Arlington was a done deal. I mean, there was no question about that. They were going to Arlington, but in the meantime, wasn't there about 4 or 5 other cities said, "Hey, come here."
Is Arlington?
I think even Northwest Indiana was making.
Yeah, but is Arlington Heights a fait accompli? It's still not. I mean, they got the land.
I'm pretty sure.
No, they got the land, but they haven't gotten the tax breaks yet. I don't think. So I don't think it's a done deal at this moment. Although you might have your sources. But I actually do have a Kenny Williams story. I don't have a Corey story, but so Kenny Williams. So the White Sox win the World Series, and I'm on the field. Now, here's one of the reasons I don't like Corey. He was on the field doing live reports for Channel 32. I was just doing taped stuff for the next morning for Channel 32 and making a bundle of money myself. So what am I complaining about? So, but anyway, I'm on the pitcher's mound. And, you think the pitcher's mound is a lonely place where you've got, just one guy solitary standing there, him against the other team's offense. You can cram a lot of people on a pitcher's mound. It looked like the Peanuts game. Charlie Brown, and everybody was on. I'm standing on the pitcher's
waving
mound.
their arms and turning a stick into a Christmas tree.
Right. It was surreal. I mean, Linus was standing there, Lucy, Charlie Brown, Minnie Minoso's walking by me. I mean, one of the greatest players of all time, just walking by me. AJ Przinsky's doing an interview, and Kenny Williams, the general manager of the White Sox, and he'd be, head honcho for 18 more years after this without much success. So this was a big deal, as evidenced by the fact that of his tenure following this. He's holding up the World Series trophy, and I asked him, can I hold the trophy? And he jerks it back, and he says, "You said we were going to finish 4th this year." So he laughs. I laugh. He hands me the trophy. I get to hold it, and it was some solace, some consolation for the White Sox having broken my heart in 1964. We don't forget about those things. But anyway, so I have a soft spot in my heart for Kenny Williams. And
so for those at home counting the trophies that Bruce held, it's 1 World Series, 0 Stanley Cups.
I am not right. That's exactly right. Well, you're a fan of this show, aren't you? You actually pay attention because I did talk to you last week or the week before when we were talking about my Rocky Wirtz story that I never got to touch the Stanley Cup, but I did get to hold the World Series trophy. Now, let me ask you this. Speaking of the history of this, recent history of this show, did we ever do the Wayne Brady pansexual story? Did we do that already? Because my short-term memory is shot.
I do not recall.
All right, so because I wanted to get in the really bad one-liner I have about it. He's the host of Let's Make a Deal now, and he admits that he's a pansexual. So I just said that he wants what's behind doors number 1, 2, and 3. I mean, and that's. It was worth mentioning, I guess. The setup wasn't that good. Have you seen?
What's behind doors 1, 2, and 3?
What did I say? Did I blow the joke? Can we edit it?
Yeah, I took I think you'd use it on Twitter. And you said before he's interested in doors 1, 2, and 3, which it's a little bit different.
I guess. Well, Twitter has, Twitter doesn't want me to, take what's copywritten by them, by me. So there's this. I don't know if Chris got the clip on this. Have you heard of this Cousin T's syrup? Have you heard about this?
I have not until Chris sent me the clip and I looked at it.
Yeah, it's the antidote. Well, I mean, they canceled Aunt Jemima and they turned it into something else, some anodyne generic named syrup.
Pearl Milling.
Yeah, right.
Milling
Exactly.
Company.
So this Cousin T, he's got his syrup and he's like, the backlash to this. He's a black guy.
What I would have done if I was Cousin T, I would have called it Aunt Jemima.
Right. Forget Cousin T. But
and
still
just make it Aunt Jemima syrup. And
I agree, but this is
put
second
Quaker,
best thing.
put the Quaker company on what are the attorneys going to do? Because if you sue for the brand, then you're admitting that it's still your brand.
Well, they want to have it both ways. Trust me, they're attorneys. But Cousin T's without his syrup is like the spring without the fall. If there's one thing worse in this universe, that's no Cousin T's at all. Yeah, it works. It works. One final thing, and I think you commented on this on Twitter as well. So they had the Air and Water show on WBBM radio. Now, I mean, how do you have an Air and Water show on the radio? It's almost as good as tap dancing on the radio, which they used to have back in the day. And people were raving about it. Oh, what a great description! There goes another jet. There goes another one. Yeah.
Well, there's a comedian, Alex Valdez. He's blind and he loves baseball.
Oh, sure.
Strangely, so it's kind of the same thing, I guess.
I guess
the Air and Water show on the radio is great if you're blind.
No, now you're making me look like a mean guy and everything. Look, I once did play-by-play of one of the Walenda descendants was going across the Chicago River on a wire, and I was with Jonathan Brandmeier, whom I was working with at the time, and he was so consumed with sound checks and everything, he wasn't watching while the guy was actually traversing the river. So I just stepped in and did the play-by-play of the guy going over the river. All right. Another wonderful week wraps up. And Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
And that's the Weekly Wrap on radio and television. Follow Bruce at Bruce Wolf Shy on Twitter and Tim at timslagle.com. The Weekly Wrap with Bruce Wolf, a CP Pods production.